Hey, No Filters listeners, you are about to hear a conversation with Alicia St. Gelais. She is the creative director at Integrity Music, and her team did an incredible job on this project. I can't wait for you to hear more from her about what she does and about all the different creative aspects of her life and of her work and where you can find her. Check the show notes afterwards for any information that you might be looking for about Alicia, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
Alicia, welcome to the pod. Thanks for joining us. Our first official interview. No pressure. It's going to be fantastic.
Yes, you are our first guest, Alicia, which obviously that was a part of your contract, so we didn't have a choice, but we're happy to have you.
Alicia St.
Gelais. So it's like a little French accent if you say Gelais with a French accent. St. Gelais. I'm sure there's actually like a more proper French way to say it, but I'm married into it. This is what we got.
I'm sure that is it actually true French or is
Canadian.
It Canadian,
So
French
Quebec,
Canadian? What
Quebec,
is it?
Quebec.
Okay, beautiful. We really want to go to Montreal.
I've never
we
been
haven't
to Canada
yet, but we really want to go one day.
So let's do it.
Let's make it happen. Let's all do it together.
Yeah.
Okay.
The best part of going to the country where your name comes from is hearing everybody pronounce it correctly on the first try. It's a thrill.
That is true.
Yeah, when the first time we went to Italy and somebody said my last name the way I say it, it was like emotional.
How do you say it?
It actually was. I feel like you did tear up.
Well, I say it with a silent G. That's how it would be pronounced in Italian, is Quaglia. So it just kind of rolls, you know? I grew up saying Quaglia, but then changed it like in high school, which nobody else in my family changed it. I'm the only one. So we had to do separate Christmas cards and everything.
Oh my gosh.
But it is fun. So if you go to Quebec, that'll be a nice treat.
There's actually a town in France called Saint Gelais. It's a very small town. And I think like their main attraction is the hotel.
Really?
I could be very wrong, but I went to Europe a few years ago with my husband and we tried to go. We were like, should we like make a 3-hour trip out of our way just to go to Saint Gelais, France? And we decided against it because we wanted to see other things. But next time, it's still on our list.
Yeah, next time.
Next time.
You
never know. You could show up in that town and they could be like, hey, there's a French villa with your family's name on it that belongs to you. We've just been waiting for you.
You never know.
Anyways, Alicia. Alicia is the creative director at Integrity Music. Is that correct?
Yes,
is that your official title? Now, for those who do not know what a creative director entails, including myself, all the things, can you share what that means, what that role actually looks like?
Absolutely. So creative director is a person who like casts and oversees vision for a project and they see it through from like concept to execution. Okay. So a lot of times that'll be sitting with an artist, in particular, my job, sitting with an artist and hearing their heart behind a project and kind of pulling pieces out of them to see like, what can we create that visually reflects this? And then also after the album is out, we're creating pieces that go alongside with the album, talking through like the concept with the artist to the photo shoot and pulling together the right like team for that to create the visuals. So like a stylist, a photographer, any video people, directors, things like that, down to even like possibly designers. Some creative directors are designers. Some aren't. I absolutely love being able to design. So when I get a chance to do that, it's great. And then even through like, we did like influencer boxes and stuff for you. So like making sure that the brand continues there or continues onto websites and different things like that. So overall creative vision, but also making sure that it all looks good.
Would you say it's kind of like a producer role for a record, but like on the art side, maybe? Like
I've always kind of seen it as like an A&R person because they kind of help build the teams.
Okay.
But even still, a producer will like get the right players in the room, get the right songwriters in the room if they need to. And sometimes producers can play and write, but they don't always.
I just think that's such a cool role because it's something that I am not gifted in, whether it's the artistic side of it, like truly like art in general. That's not my gifting, but also just like the visual element and branding and like thinking that all the way through the 30,000 foot view of that is just not the way my mind works. So like to see you doing it and executing it so beautifully and well was just such a fun part of the whole experience, honestly. So it's quite a role.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure every project obviously is different and there's always maybe a different goal you have, but at least for this record, the feedback from everybody has been like,
man.
oh my gosh, these visuals are crazy. And I think especially the way some of the first stuff came out on at least on social media, I haven't seen it a bunch of other places, but I just think it took a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah.
And it was like, it really set the tone. So way before people heard any of the music, there was like an anticipation built strictly just by the visuals.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool, like, side part, side effect of what you do, I guess.
That buildup was a lot to do with Sarah and her manager, David. Like, we sat there and we talked about, like, how can we make this happen? How can we make this impactful? And so I really appreciated working with you guys on that, for sure. And then even still, like, I get the most compliments from not strangers, but just people who I haven't seen in a while. Like I ran into, maybe I shouldn't drop names here. I ran into David Leonard, and he, like, literally the first thing he said to me was like, oh my gosh, that Sarah Kroger cover is literally like one of my favorite covers I've seen in such a long time. That's not a direct quote, but that was the overall the vibe that I got from him. And then even last week, I got 2 miscellaneous notes from people, like, just out of the blue, were just, hey, I love the Sarah Kroger cover. That was amazing. The guy who's printing your packaging even messaged and said, this is the most beautiful packaging I've done, like, I've ever seen. And I've worked in this for 20, 30 years, and it's just so beautiful. And to me, I'm like, I'm so proud of it, but I'm also like, dude, that's so Sarah. And that's the creative team that was alongside of it. I don't see it as it just being myself, where, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm bad at taking compliments a little bit too, but, I'm just so excited to be a part of something that people are really stoked on, including you. You're the most important person for me to have to be stoked on it. So,
I mean, it's
thank you, Alicia. That means a lot to me. Oh,
I can't tell.
You're talking to Sarah. I'm sorry.
No, it's been overwhelming, truly, even for me, to get the feedback and people just being astonished at how it all looks and came together. And I mean, that's truly a testament to you at the helm. I'm not trying to just like bring it back to you, but it really is a testament to like you being in the details and in the weeds with every little single thing. Like, even I remember when we did the No Filter music video, like you having at the beginning, having the detail of having like a Big Sur magazine on the front, which is, if people don't know, that's where we shot all the videos and content for the art. And then like the coffee cup and like all the things that you put into the beginning of that video to make it more dramatic, you know, the me coming off of the couch whole thing. Oh, I hope that doesn't ruin it for anybody, but by now, hopefully you've seen it. If you haven't, go check it out. The No Filter music video on YouTube. But all of those little details, again, that is something that I don't even think about. And it's something that I've started paying attention to more with even other projects as I've worked with you, like paying attention to the different, pieces of the art that are there that I just never would have noticed before. So it's a really cool part of the process. I guess like one of my questions that I have for you is, what are the challenges of being a creative director when the art is directly connected to someone else's art? Because for me, I think it would be hard for me to like kind of go in the back seat a little bit. Like my expression of my art is directly tied to someone else's art. You know what I mean? Like, how do you navigate your own preferences versus like what my preferences are as an artist? You know what I mean? Like,
project by project is different, kind of like what you're saying. And I think that's the fun part of being a creative director, is that you're not pigeonholed to create the same thing every single time. So like, we have so many different artists and they all have different looks. And even if they do feel similar in some way, they're completely different. But for this project specifically, the 3 of us here on this call are all from Florida. No. And so like hearing the heart behind this project, hearing Sarah and how you would listen back to these songs while like looking at the ocean and feeling so small and God's grandness really hit home to me. So I feel like this project really aligned a lot with some of my personal preferences. But generally speaking, at the end of the day, it's not my name. It's not my face on the cover. I have learned to not take it personally when people don't like a design. Like, it took a couple years. One of my now friends, she's an incredible designer. She's a VP at Capitol Music. I was working with her back at my old job, and she said, Alicia, I do not take any feedback personally that you give me about my graphic design. And I said, oh, that's really interesting. And so she and I had a bit of a conversation about that. And I think from that point on, I had to like really find within me, am I taking this personally and why? And so just knowing at the end of the day, it's supposed to be good art. So you do your best to make good art and know when to kind of like push back or know when to kind of nudge and be like, hey, are you completely sure about this? So yeah, it's the journey. I love it.
It sounds like you have to be ideally good at getting into the minutia and the details and also seeing the 30,000 foot view. I feel like a lot of people might feel like maybe one or the other is their skill, but it sounds like you have to do both. So I'm thinking of like a very specific, like I think we can give people a specific example of like the trip out to Big Sur to get photo and video stuff. Me having never been on a shoot like that, I was totally in the dark about how things are going to work. So I think people would find it interesting, like how you approach a trip like that. So you're on location for 2 or 3 days somewhere. The weather is a potential factor. Yeah. There's all kinds of things that, you can't exactly nail until like you're on site. So you're up, at the crack of dawn because you have to get out for like first light.
light.
So there's a lot of things that go into a trip like that might not be obvious. So do you think it would be interesting even just to give a quick snapshot of like how a shoot goes?
I feel like a lot of times when I talk about what I do, I feel like a math teacher who I suck at math. So this is why I bring this up. Like anytime I learned crazy math equations, a teacher would like write stuff up on a board and they would like skip steps just because it's so naturally ingrained in them that they know how to do it. So I feel like a lot of times when I explain the creative process, I might skip some steps. So feel free to let me know if I'm skipping anything here. Yeah. We talked through just the heart behind the album, how nature was such a huge theme. Yeah. And we did kind of talk about where we should shoot this. Should we shoot it in Sarah's hometown in Florida or in California? And us being from Florida, we're kind of like, Florida's cool, I guess. Like, that's fine. And then I had worked with a director named John Steingard and photographer named Eric Frost previously before, and they're both from California. And so when I knew about this project with Sarah, I pitched their work to you, and you said, I absolutely love it. We got on a call with them. They helped us scout a few locations. And so we ended up going out to California. We had some stylists at the front in Nashville actually help us buy outfits and put them together. So Luke and then also Lisa, they helped us pull those looks together. Lisa helped finalize the looks via FaceTime while we were in Big Sur, which is kind of crazy.
Yes.
And then Veronica Zink, she came out to do hair and makeup as well. So there are all of those coordination pieces getting out there. And then the visual research that we had all looked at together and agreed upon before we went out there was kind of like a guidebook of here's our general inspiration of what we're kind of shooting for. We had a little bit of like filmic look, which is one of the reasons why I knew Eric was going to be incredible for this. Strong portraits, some artsy fartsy stuff. Again, Eric is amazing at that stuff. And so just knew that going out there, we were going to have the right team put together for this. And then on set, Dom, you were saying that, you have to know the minutia of the fine details, but kind of when you're in the middle of it, I feel very open-handed with the creative process of letting it happen and trusting the team to let it happen and happen correctly. Not to sound cheesy Christian, but like, honestly, I prayed so much of like, God, just let the right thing that you need us to capture be done. And I have tended to be a control freak in the past.
Beautiful.
Back to my feelings getting hurt about art. And so like, I think I've had to let go of that and let art be what it is and just do its own thing.
Yeah. I think one of the craziest parts of this whole experience has been the fact that like the cover art that we talked about at the beginning, right? And we've talked about this, how the whole idea of the mirror was like kind of this one little piece, one photo, right? In that, what do you call it? The creative brief, right? Ahead of time that you had sent around to us. And we were like, oh, let's just try out a mirror in some of these situations and see how it goes. And then Dom, the brave soul and the sweet husband that he is, became the muscles of the shoot, became the mirror guy, literally in every aspect where the mirror is shown, he's behind it. Which is funny.
I'm glad you guys mentioned
credit
that.
Credit is due, Dom.
Well, I was going to say my humility kind of prevented me from bringing it up. But I do think it should be mentioned.
I know we should have put it in the credits of the album. Mirror guy, Dom Quaglia. I should have thought of that.
I don't want to cut off your train of thought. There's a lot to say on the mirror, but we can get into that later. We can
get into that in a second. Pin that. We'll come back to the mirror. No, but like what's so crazy about that to me is just what you're talking about. Like that's why we have to be open-handed with something like that. Because first of all, we have no idea what the lighting's going to be like, what the weather's going to be like, what aspect, like what location is going to be better than others. And we brought that mirror literally everywhere. And then it became it became the cover image. And like, we couldn't have really planned for that. You know what I mean? Like even the way that one of your photos happened to work in the background and it became this Narnia kind of vibe that I was hoping for after we shot the thing. And yeah, it's just wild to think about that journey. And like you're saying, just being open-handed with it and coming with it. Yeah. Surrendered, kind of open to wherever God leads us in the moment and trusting that Eric and John know what they're doing, that you know what you're doing. And we're just going to figure it out.
Eric, I think, was the one who encouraged us to have the mirror everywhere. Again, not a direct quote, but I think he said, I want to see this mirror everywhere so much until we're sick of it, which I think we accomplished that. And it kind of, like we left it open-handed, but it kind of forced us a little bit to use it and really lean into it, because that's where we wanted to head in the first place. Like, I think the idea of this mirror and seeing you in different places and phases where you're still the same, but things around you change and things continually get more bright and vibrant, just kind of felt like the whole backstory of this album. And so I feel like that worked out really well. And again, thanks to Dom. The very first, like the sunrise shoot that we had, John goes, hey, Alicia, can you hold this mirror? And I said, and Dom goes, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so I'm so thankful because I got to kind of stand back and help direct a little bit more rather than just hold a mirror and be like, you guys got it. I'm very open-handed, but still, I'm very thankful that I was there to help do things while Dom was doing the actual heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's so funny. First of all, it was my pleasure to help be part of the team. It is funny just because, the mirror would be balanced. First of all, it's a very heavy mirror. You can tell just by the size of it, but it's wood framed as well, pretty heavy. And then
it was an incredible mirror, honestly.
It is actually a really beautiful mirror.
Yeah.
And then we'd be resting it on an uneven, some slippery rock, And so you're kind of standing in a precarious position anyway, even without the mirror. And then I'm trying to balance the mirror on like a pointed edge, and not let it tilt. And my fingers are sticking out on either side. And so I just feel bad I know somebody had to go through and Photoshop all my little sausage fingers out of every. The best thing for me about it, though, for real, was there's nothing worse for me than being in a situation like that and having nothing to do. And feeling like I'm like not contributing at all. So even if it's just like, hey, hold this thing, I'm like, yes, I have a role.
I have a video of you holding the jacket that Sarah wore on the cover shot, and it's just you standing there and it's blowing in the wind, and you're just like, this is what I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm so thankful you were there. Yes,
I'm happy to hold things. Yeah, happy to hold things.
So many things. It was
so
good.
I do have a couple of quotes and things I wanted to read when we're done with this train of thought.
Yeah,
because there's a couple things I wanted to throw at you and see and get both of your thoughts about.
No pressure.
Pop quiz.
Yeah, no, definitely no pressure. Okay, so I've been reading Madeleine L'Engle's Walking on Water, and there's a couple things I read over the last week that since I knew this conversation was coming up, I was like, oh, I'm curious to see what Alicia thinks about this. Here's the first one. All children are artists. And it is an indictment of our culture that so many of them lose their creativity, their unfettered imaginations as they get older. Whoa. We don't have kids. We don't have to talk about anyone's specific kids, but I'm around kids enough because most of our friends have kids that I can see just the wild, like she says, unfettered imaginations, just like wild creativity that's at play. It does seem to kind of grow dimmer in a lot of people as we get older, but I just wasn't sure if just being in the creative arts, if either of you have thoughts about that, or maybe just about how to continue to foster creativity in yourself as you get older and life happens, Yeah,
first of all, that book's amazing. I just got that for Christmas this past year and read it for the first time. I think I sent Sarah a text of like a quote from that book too as I was reading it, and I was like, Sarah,
yes,
it wasn't this quote, but
I think you did. Yeah.
So I feel like there's so much to unpack there. I know someone in the past couple of years, he said there's a guy who, if he asked you to draw a picture of a tree, and you drew a picture of a tree, he could tell you at what age someone made fun of you and what you were drawing, and you stopped learning how to draw.
No way.
You stopped learning how to create. Because we are so influenced by what people around us think that if they're like, that's an ugly tree, then you either continue to keep going, doing your own thing, or learn how to do it, or you stop. And so I don't know. I feel like there's definitely years or a season where my artistic ability had laid really dormant, and I kind of got really bitter and jaded at other people's work. Like, I could do that. You're like, that's so easy. But the thing is, I didn't do that. And what's the point of like poo-pooing on people where we can just go in and encourage each other to do your thing? We're all in this together. Not to be super cheesy, but I do think it's important to like do your own thing. A huge turning point for me was doing a 100 Days of Art challenge, where I just challenged myself to spend a minimum of 5 minutes a day for 100 days. The goal was to do it consecutively, and I actually did for the first time that I went through this. And I gained so much confidence and like freedom, and lost a lot of perfectionism in the things that I was designing and creating, just because I was posting it on social media each day. And I was like, I have to relinquish the fact that I can't be perfect. And it kind of was like practicing getting over stage fright, you know? And so I think it is so important to just play, just do. I don't always practice what I preach in that, but the creative team at Integrity, we did 100 Days of Art last year. Olivia and I were the ones who finished it.
Oh, cool.
We're going to try it again with our bigger creative team this year. It's a little bit different, but we've talked about that too. And man, it is so interesting to see like even my own son, where he'll draw or paint something, and I try my best to not be like, that's good or that's bad. I just, encourage him or ask him about like, oh, why did you choose these colors and things like that. And sometimes, he's a 3-year-old and he'll be like, because I like purple. And it's like, dude, go for it. Like, that's what you should be doing.
I love it.
So yeah, I think that's my long-winded answer.
No, I love that so much. I kind of want to echo that a little bit, or piggyback off of what you're saying. I feel like when I was younger, I really we've talked about this. I had a wild imagination. Like I had like so many different imaginary friends, and I would just play in the backyard and get lost in like the art of story, or just like creativity in general, like painting random things or whatever. And I feel like the older you get, especially in this culture of social media and comparison and people judging you or your art or whatever, it can feel so difficult to rise above perfectionism. I'm also a perfectionist, and also just like to do it for the love, like especially for those of us who are doing art as our profession, right? Like it can be like a fine line. And it's the same for me. Like just recently, just this week, I started coming into my studio and just learning like some of my favorite cover songs just for fun, like not even maybe to post on Reels, but really just for like the joy of learning a new song and like practicing piano and learning how to like arrange it in a fun way and sing it in a fun way. And maybe that's literally just for me, but I feel like it's so easy to lose the love of it and the just kind of the free expression and the nature, just the joy of it when you're doing it for a living. And like the challenge is to like just no pressure, allow yourself to just do it for the love,
Totally.
Yeah.
So I think
feel like I have a lot of like side hustles out of the desire to want to be challenged to do more things. So a few years ago, I just was like, I want to paint a mural. Okay. Never done it before. My first one was like 30 feet long and 10 feet high or something like that. It's the side of the Smokestack, which is a recording studio in Berry Hill. The owner, Paul Moak, I just was like, hey, can I paint a mural? And he was like, sure, why not? And so he let me do it. And then I ended up painting a couple things with Meredith, who used to work here at Integrity, at Ladybird. We painted some of the stuff at Ladybird Taco on the outside. And then me and my good friend, we painted the little Tacodillo on the inside of their original location. And then I painted the mural at the old Integrity office as well. People were like, hey, you do this, right? And so I just like, sure. But I mean, I'm not going to pigeonhole myself to one thing, but then my flower stand that I came up with was, so
please share about that.
It's not like a side hustle for the sake of needing to make money, because you don't really do that with this, but I love flowers and arranging flowers. And one day I just was like, what would it look like to have like a newspaper stand vibe flower stand where it's custom bouquets wrapped in custom design newspapers that have some sort of floral pun design on it. And so I did my first pop-up at Ladybird Taco. Maybe we should get them to sponsor this. This is my second plug here. Last year.
Ladybird.
And so that was my first time. And it just was for the sake of wanting to design and do stuff. And much to my husband's dismay, feels like a strong word, but a lot of times, chagrin. Much to my husband's chagrin, he's always like, oh, you're doing another thing? And it's like, yes. And he's like, you always need my help. And I go, no, I don't need your help. A lot of times I do need his help, but I just love being able to like challenge myself and do something new, and murals and flowers and all that stuff is still something that I just love picking up and doing whenever I get the chance to. Just another form of expression.
Yeah, I love that. For those of you out there who are thinking of doing something creative, to me, what you're just saying is like an encouragement and a challenge to just like put yourself out there. You know what I mean? Like just do it. Like if you have an idea for something, the worst that can happen is that it fails and it doesn't go anywhere. But the best that can happen is that it becomes a thriving side hustle or business or another way to challenge yourself, like you're saying, and be creative and just keep that muscle going.
And if you do fail,
so I think that's awesome.
That's kind of where you were at to begin with, but at least you tried and know that was the result, rather than just keeping it a question for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Of like, what if I did this?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It occurs to me like that's a really cool example, by the way, of just all the different creative avenues that you go down. That's really cool, especially like because you are in a creative effort for your work. So like when my dad was a chef in restaurants, he never cooked when he was at home. He would be making people amazing meals, and he would come home and heat up like Hot Pockets just to like not have to cook, you know? So I know that with probably your very little free time, it's actually probably somewhat of a sacrifice, I guess, to do, even though you love it, to do all these other creative things. But it's just so cool that first of all, that you have that many skills, but that you actually use them and don't let them just lie dormant or disappear. That's a good challenge for people. And also I would imagine, now I don't know how much you guys think about your art as Christian art, if you're in the Christian space. Like some of the people listening, just because of what we do, might be Christian or involved in Christian art. You wouldn't say like, oh, I have a like a Christian flower shop. You know what I mean? Like it's just like you're just trying to make something beautiful and something authentic to who you are. And for me, it seems like, and I'm not an expert in this, but it seems like to make Christian art, if that's a goal that somebody has to make Christian art, probably more so than it really needing to fit in that category. It's just like make something beautiful, make something true to who you are. And, in a sense, like we're trying to collaborate with the creator. So I think like art is collaboration in that way.
Yeah.
Also in the book, Walking on Water, Madeline L'Engle says something along the lines of music is music, a story is a story, a painting is a painting. And at least in the beginning, as she's like beginning to open up that idea, she's like, I don't really know what to make of that. But if it's bad art, it's bad religion. Doesn't matter how pious the subject is. So even if it's Christian art, the goal should be to make something good and true and beautiful. And, again, if this is how it's helpful to think about, to like be a collaborator with the creator and kind of let him kind of move through you and your efforts, to me, that's a lot more important than being like, oh, my art, this is Christian art because I'm a Christian or because my audience is Christian or something. You know what I mean? And to me, that's where that unfettered imagination and just wild creativity, just let it flow and trust that whatever's going to,
L'Engle, she says Christian art can be Christian art if you're a Christian because it's an extension of who you are. It doesn't have to be like, this is a picture of Jesus in order for it to be a Christian art. Like people, just as people have conversations with you and they will be able to glean that you're a Christian based off of what you say, they should be able to glean like the joyfulness and things like that out of your art. Not to say, gloomy art can't be Christian art either. But she even says in her book, I don't think that there should be such a category of children's books. Like children are so much smarter than you think. And just to set out and dumb things down for children is just not fair to them. And so I feel like even similarly, like just because sometimes Christians can appear to only think within this specific radio station box or something doesn't mean you need to create music or art specifically for those people, because they will subconsciously or not pick up on the art.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Well,
I love it.
Sarah, I think a lot of that is reflected in your songs though too. Like you might call it Christian music, or people might say it's Christian music, but you let a very wide range of experiences be represented in the music. It's not like you're trying to just hit one tone of what it is to be Christian. I mean, and we'll get into that in other episodes, obviously, but I think that that's something that right from the jump with the songs themselves, it's like when I listen to it, I go, yeah, some of it's Christian music and some of it is just a true expression of how you're doing and what you're feeling, and that it's just Christian because you are. It's not. It's not like it has. It's not like it's trying to fit in some Christian box.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I don't want to take up
We're good.
so much more of your time because you've already given us so much of it. Is there anyone on your team specifically that you want to shout out in this podcast in case they listened? Because your team is so amazing. And even the team that's worked on this whole thing, I just want to shout them all out. Maybe we'll get some of them on the pod too.
So The creative team out in California that was with us was John Steingard, Eric Frost, and Veronica Zink. And then we also...
Incredible.
Inland. and Nashville, we had Luke Robinson, who helped with styling with you, and Lisa Womkin, who helped with that as well. Olivia Buchanan here at the Integrity team, Robbie Moore, and Renee Buter, all of them played some sort of part in this project, whether that's like creating influencer boxes, which Olivia created some beautiful pieces, which I've seen they've shipped out to people. And it's really cool. So she created these cute like little matchbooks that are reminiscent of the flower that we have throughout some of your packaging and things like that. And she's also working on your website and updating it, and it looks amazing. And Robbie, he's creating like lyric videos, utilizing some of the footage that John got out in California.
Oh my gosh.
He even captured stuff to create a lyric video for No Filter on the music video set. Also, the music video set, we had Hunter Sims and Jess Russ from Integrity.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Literally, I was like, hey, I'm building a set. And they go, where and how? Like, what do you need? And they were to help build it through the snowstorm earlier this year.
Yes.
And then also Renee, she's the newest part of our creative team, but she just hopped right in and she helped make sure that your release party looked really gorgeous as well. On top of the marketing team, we have so many people who work here, but amazing. Carly, your lead marketer, she pulled that together. And it was gorgeous,
so many people. It really does take a village, and that's just one aspect of this record. You know what I mean? Like just one part of the team. So shout out to all of them. Thank you so much if you're listening to this for all that you do.
Mm-hmm.
But truly, Alicia, like couldn't have done this without you and your vision and the ways that you are as an artist and as a person, and just the ways that you respond to the spirit is really beautiful and inspiring to me. And I'm just so grateful for the ways that you've touched this record and just made it come to life truly through the visuals. I can't thank you enough.
It's been awesome to work with you guys.
It's been amazing.
It's been a treat. It's not always this fun. We don't always get to go to Big Sur. It's my first time there. So thank you for that.
And I'm going to say it on behalf of Dom. Thanks for teaching him how to use his iPhone camera and some of the tricks for that, because that was he's been using it. I feel like you've been utilizing what she taught you.
Yeah.
It's from this to this. Sure. Just a little bit. You got some good stuff in California, Dom. You really did. You got a sick picture of me.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you showed me that if you click on the screen and then you can raise your finger up or down, and there's like a little sunlight.
Yeah.
Is what exposure. Yeah. That even just that makes a huge difference. You know, like I think recently at a concert, I took the first good photo I've ever taken at a concert in my life.
See, Alicia,
concert
saving
photos
people
is
everywhere
how I really
on their
got
iPhones.
into this industry. So I love it. Full circle. Amazing.
I love it.
Thanks,
Alicia. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're the best.
Yeah, it's good to see you.